The video from Action Retro. Can modern Linux fit on a 1.44 megabyte floppy? Probably not.
The latest Ubuntu Linux installer weighs
About 6.5 gig?
in at 5.8 gigabytes.
Okay, I overestimated a bit. Wasn't it 6.8? 6.5 or something? Whatever. 5.8 gigabytes.
And this is a 1.44 megabyte floppy disk. It's over 4,000 times smaller.
What is the compiled size of the kernel, though? Like, just minimal of minimal systems. Like, stripping out a bunch of shit from the kernel. Found a video on the Baki manga fan subs, but it's too long. Might be a bit too spicy. Drop the link. I can take a look at it at least.
So today, we're installing modern Linux on a single one of these, with room to spare.
Okay.
So stay tuned.
Ooh.
And if you enjoy laughing in the face of minimum system requirements, I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel. Why do modern operating systems need so much storage?
Bunch of reasons for that. Developers are lazy. Actually, that's pretty much the main. So what we've done over the years is we have optimized developer time at the cost of software performance. We've made things easier to build with these heavier frameworks. What that has led to is software that you can iterate on much faster, but ends up being quite a bit larger. When two pregnant people get into a fist fight, they become Gundams. So hi, what a first message that is. Welcome.
Are they really more advanced, or do they just have more bloat? Well, I
Bit
think
of both.
we all know the answer to that. But what happens if we strip away all that bloat? And I mean all of it. Could we really have a modern, bootable, functional Linux distro in 1.44 megabytes?
Modern.
Well, it's time to dust off the compiler, because we're building the Linux kernel with almost all of the options turned off. So we're going to be following the Floppinix guide here on GitHub, which was actually just recently
a guy who's
updated,
done it.
which is actually a Floppinix guide.
Polish. I know it's Polish because his name is spelt wrong. Let's just check. Does he say, I'm pretty sure it's Polish. Let's go to his GitHub. Does he say? I was right. I'm always right. Anytime you see this many fucking Z's in any word, 100% Polish.
Guide here on GitHub, which was actually just recently updated, which is actually a guide for the absolute bare minimum stuff you need to compile into the Linux kernel to have it boot, along with how to compile BusyBox, which is a Linux shell.
Polish language is smashing the keyboard. It is a very specific kind of smashing the keyboard. Lots of Y's, lots of Z's, lots of K's, lots of W's as well.
Basically, to be as small as possible while still having some features. So we're going to be following this guide here on Arch Linux, which actually is what the writer of this guide used, or at least an Arch-based
Arch Linux, but on GNOME. Could be better. What the fuck is KGX? KGX terminal. Oh, it's GNOME terminal. Or GNOME. They have two terminal applications? GNOME terminal and GNOME console. Why? Also, you don't know whether you have fast fetch, fetch, or neofetch installed? Good job.
And for our first attempt here to make sure this boots, we're going to follow everything to the letter. And in fact, we are going to be booting this on a 486DX machine. All right, first error from the instructions here. It does not like the letter Y in there. So we will replace that with 11. There we go. All right, CD into our Linux directory, and then we are going to do make with architecture x86. We're cross-compiling, and tinyconfig to give us a minimal configuration of the kernel. And then we're going to do good old menu config.
Ooh.
So in here, we're just going to take all the options that Floppinux asks us to. So processor, good old 486.
Get rid of all the garbage.
Device drivers. We're certainly going to need floppy disk support. And we only need XZ compression. In file systems, we only need DOS support because this is a floppy disk. And library routines, we only need XZ.
GNOME is against having features, not against rewriting things from scratch and temporarily having 2 of an entire program.
Compression, but not any of this weird stuff here. And that's it. That is the Linux kernel with almost all options turned off. Well, let's go ahead and compile it. Hopefully jump cut to...
Wait, did I double comment that? Hold on. Oops, my bad. Edit. Oh, I did. How did I do that?
Linux is compiled. Where's Jeff Geerling when you need him? All right, compile successful. Let's see how big our kernel is. Look at that, 829K. That's a little more than half of a floppy disk. All right, so next up, we're going to compile a minimal BusyBox, which is all of the Linux utilities that you know and love, just in super...
But what about GNU? Do you want to know the real Linux red pill? The real Linux red pill is realizing that that GNU has done massive damage to Unix. There is a subset of people that really don't like the GNU additions and think that they actively harmed the growth of Unix into the modern era.
Tiny alternative form, and all compiled into a single binary. So first, let's download and extract the BusyBox sources. And then once again, we are cross-compiling, and we're going to use the all no config option to turn all the options off.
Okay.
We are using Arch Linux, so we need to use this quick fix. And now we get to pick what functionality we want to fit onto our floppy disk.
Like so the suckless people. Suckless people are one group, but there's a lot of other people who would argue very similar things. I was impressed with this. I thought you had to use much older kernels to build a one floppy system. I'm actually impressed that you can compile this tiny as well. If you use the Rust core utils, is Linux still GNU? See, a lot of people argue that something like starts with an A. Does it start with an A? There's a distro that ships with that doesn't ship with the GNU core utils. Ships with BusyBox. Yeah, the Alpine. Yes, Alpine. Alpine's not a GNU system. It doesn't have the GNU extensions. The Rust core utils, that is still a re-implementation of GNU. So I would argue yes, because of the GNU extensions. But also another thing you have to talk about is GCC. I think more importantly than the GNU core utils are the GNU C extensions. If you rely on those, then I think it's hard to escape it.
Menu config here. We'll just choose everything Floppinux wants us to, and then we will see how much free space we have. All right, it wants us to choose support files over 2 gigabytes.
Oh, that's a lot.
That's going to be an issue. We're going to build a static binary with no shared libraries. So it's all one file. And now our core utilities. So we want cat, which can print out files. I guess we'll turn all these options off. Copy command seems important. DF, that's going to show us our disk usage.
That's
Echo,
optional. You
that's
didn't need
important. LS, so we can see what's in our directories. And we'll just turn all this stuff off. MV, that's our move command. RM, which is delete. Kind of want make directory too. 4.5 kilobytes.
That's a lot.
All right, sync and test. Sync, that's going to be very important if we save files to the floppy disk. And test. Yep. Under editors, we're going to have our truly only full software package, Vi.
You're gonna go with Vi and not save the 2 kilobytes and go with ed? What are you doing?
So we can edit stuff. We don't need any of this support. Init utilities. We can uncheck all this stuff. For our shell, we're going to be using the Ash shell optimized for size. Yeah, we'll choose help built in, even though I don't think we really need that.
The Luke's meme is the only reason I even know about.
And alias support. All right, that should do it for configuration. Just set up the paths and compile.
Okay.
And just like that, BusyBox is compiled. Now we need to set up file systems for the floppy.
Okay.
Luckily, we can just copy paste our way into it. All right, I've prepared a special welcome message here. Yep. Welp, you're running Linux from a floppy disk. I'll make init tab, init rc, and then compress all this down into a single file. Finish syslinux.config, a sample file, why not? And now we can use dd to create an empty floppy disk image.
And then you accidentally DD your main drive.
An empty floppy disk image. Pretty quick. We can install syslinux directly to the floppy disk image, and then mount the floppy image and install all of our stuff to it. And it's actually done. Let's just make sure it boots in the QEMU emulator before we actually write this to a floppy.
Sorry.
It's in the QEMU emulator.
Can someone explain to me? Can someone explain to me the why Americans say emu? I do not understand. Why is it so difficult to just say emu? It's I know in this case it's emulator, so either way it's wrong. But for some reason they just can't say the word emu.
Emulator before we actually write this to a floppy disk. It does! Look at that. That is a 1.4 megabyte floppy disk image that just booted Linux, modern Linux. All right, let's write this to a floppy disk. All right, I've got my iMac USB floppy drive here.
The fuck?
All right, I've got my...
That is incredible tech.
iMac USB floppy drive.
I have floppies in a 486. I should go through this guide sometime. Well, you should go through it sometime fairly soon because 486 support is being dropped from the kernel. So you won't be able to do it as of the 7.1 kernel, I believe.
Drive here. Bright red floppy disk so we don't lose it. And there it is on SDA. So we will do sudo dd input file is equal to the floppy disk image.
Make sure you get that one right. Make sure, especially the output file. That one's very important.
To dev SDA.
That's terrifying. I know he's booting off of an NVMe. The fact that a floppy disk shows up as SDA? Nah, nah. Why the flop? Is there like some historical reason why hard drives and floppy disks have the same label? That's terrifying. I don't like that.
Block size, I guess, is 512. Status equals progress. Let's see if it works. Oh yeah, floppy drive is making floppy drive.
Oh wow, that's
noises.
Look at that speed. Yeah, so on Windows it was, but your main drive doesn't. What is the main drive? C? B? C. C is the main drive in Windows, yeah? Yeah. Yeah, floppies are traditionally A because of some DOS reasons. That's the main reason.
Ooh, I don't think this floppy disk is good. Nope. Well, let's try that again with floppy disk number 2. Much happier floppy disk noises.
Ooh,
all right, well, here
that was 8.5 kilobytes a second. That's crazy. That's a lot of speed.
One floppy disk full of Linux. All right, we have what should be a bootable floppy disk.
Should be.
And I have here a rather minimalist computer to boot it on. And we're only going to hook a single floppy drive up to it. Could this possibly work?
What the fuck? What a board, man. Wait. Is that 8 sticks of RAM? I know this is like an i486. How much RAM is that? What do you think this system has?
We'll find out right after this quick word about today's sponsor, PCBWay.
Ooh.
PCBWay is a one-stop solution for
sponsor.
all of your PCB assembly and fabrication needs. Do you need to prototype something? Build a run of a project? I bet PCBWay can handle the whole thing, the whole way through. PCB prototyping starts at just $5 for 10 pieces, with as little as a 24-hour turnaround. Right now, it's the PCBWay Christmas sale, which I think is the best sale they've ever had for one reason. Free purple solder mask, in addition to matte black and pink. There's also 10% off transparent Somos Lido 3D materials and up to $435 worth of coupons up for grabs. Do you need PCB assembly? How about free shipping and a free stencil? There's so many good deals during the Christmas sale. You're just gonna have to check out the link.
Oh, the PCB video? I don't have anything. I'm happy to watch the video. I like Lewis. I just don't have anything to say about PCB drama.
Down in my description below to find out. So, for everything from prototyping to 3D printing to mass production, I hope you'll give PCBWay.com a try.
No, I think having tons of sticks of RAM used to be a thing with Sim before they made the chips double-sided. Oh, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
All right, we have ourselves a 486 DX2 66.
Look how fucking giant that socket is. Also, when did Intel start doing LGA? Because this is obviously a PGA chip. What was their first LGA chip? Because AMD took a long time to start doing LGA. I think AMD started doing LGA like 2 years ago. When did Intel start doing it? It's got to be like fucking 15 years ago at this point, surely. First Intel LGA processor. They started with the LGA 775. Pentium 4. Pentium 4 was their first LGA chip.
6 megahertz on this motherboard here, along with as much RAM as I could find. No case needed. We're just gonna drag one this thing right on the desk. The floppy controller does not work on this.
It is kind of crazy how little PC components have changed over the years, right? Like, obviously, there's going to be some weird headers on here you're not used to, but if I put you in front of this board and I was like, hey, build a computer, you could probably work your way around it relatively easily without too much hassle.
So I have this ISA card to compensate. We're gonna need some video, so I have this Viper PCI card.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah. Right, of course, there was another connector standard at some point.
Floppy controller does not work on this board, so I have this ISA card to
Aha. When did we stop doing ICE supports? I know iSupports are still a thing on, like, weird industry hardware. When do consumer motherboards stop having ISA ports? Around the 2000s.
Compensate. We're gonna need some video, so I have this
Look at that card, man.
Viper PCI card right here. Since we'll be taxing this 486, I've got a heat sink that I'll just drop right on top of the processor. That should be fine. I also have a network card, although I didn't install any networking drivers. Maybe we can try that later. We're gonna go with this cheapo ATX power supply here. I'm gonna have this nice
What the fuck? I don't look at old hardware like this that often. Everything's just like normal on here. Like all of these are like modern, pretty much what you still see on a modern system. You have your Molex stuff, you have your SATA power.
adapter for ITX. And a nice little fan
Hey!
for this poor 486.
Oh my
Just
god.
lay it on top. These wires have to be connected. This is actually the power
Okay, maybe this is a little bit different.
switch connector. There we go. Now it's always powered on. Oh, I guess we should find a monitor. All right, well, here is our jank-tastic Linux box.
Well, it was practical to have both PCI, both because PCI was faster, but ISA was enough for a lot of things and had existing hardware. So it's kind of like how USB 2 is stuck around for a long time, because for things like mice, for keyboards, USB 2 is totally fine. USB 3 is not going to add any additional benefits to it.
The only storage connected is this floppy drive with Linux on it. Hopefully. Let's power this thing on. Oh, it's booting. Hey, look at that. We have like 100 megs of RAM in this thing.
That's
Nice.
a lot.
Oh my god, look. Sys Linux. This thing is freaking booting. Welp.
Nope.
All right, after going through this many disks, I found one that seems to work.
Does it now?
If you want to know why all of my floppy disks don't work, check out the video where we hosted a website from a raid of floppy drives.
Why?
Oh yeah, it's really booting this time. Look at that. Oh, there it goes. Look, it's loading BZ image. That's our Linux. Boy, this thing is sure making a lot of floppy drive noises. Oh my god, we are booted into Linux. Well,
Oh my
You're
God.
running Linux from a floppy disk.
Oh my
Let's
God.
see. LS. Nothing. Where are we? CD dot dot. There we go.
Yeah, you would have been. Yeah, okay, it would have been in his home drive. Okay, yeah. No more. It is now safe to turn off your
Look
computer.
at that. It's a Linux. We even have one application.
Ooh.
Look, it's Vi. Hello there.
All right.
We just wrote a file. Let's see, what other fun commands did we put on here? Make dir. Yep. There's our directory. Home should be connected to persistent storage, although I'm not actually seeing anything here. Touch test. No, we don't have touch. Vi test. Well, I'm not sure if persistent storage is working. Let's see, what else did we install on here?
Not hello
Oh, yeah,
world.
look at
No,
that.
just
We have
test.
echo, we have mount, we have unmount, we have df. We can see how much space we have available. Proc mounts. No such file or directory. Oh, I guess we have to.
That would explain why you're not getting persistent storage.
All right, let's see if we can install any additional programs on here. Okay, so first of all, it's absolutely wild that this works. We booted modern Linux on a
Modern Linux is doing a lot of heavy lifting there. Modern Linux kernel with modern BusyBox. Modern Linux is doing a ton of heavy lifting. I do wonder how small you could make a distro that has a graphical environment. And I don't mean something like Puppy Linux, because that has like a lot of ricing and a lot of applications. But if you just want to go the smallest of smallest that has a graphical environment and I guess a terminal, and then also any of the additional stuff we have here, I do wonder how small you could get.
486 off of a floppy disk. That's crazy. Now, as far as what's supposed to happen here, we should have persistent storage mount/data, which mounts with a bind to the home directory. But I wonder if I inadvertently turned off the options that mount needs to actually do that.
Possibly.
So what I would like to do is recompile BusyBox and give ourselves some more utilities. So we're going to remove the file system here. Then go into BusyBox, and we will do make arch equals x86 menu config. And it has all of our previous selections already because we didn't delete the configuration file. Let's go into Linux system utilities, go down to mount. Mount helpers, maybe? Not quite sure why it didn't work mounting the home directory. All right, let's see about some more utilities.
Hello there.
I definitely want uname for the hilarious screenshot potential. Let's see, Debian utilities, no. Oops. And then in the shell here, I'm going to select POSIX math support so we can run maybe a miniature NeoFetch-esque type of app like pfetch. I don't think we need help support. All right, let's see if this compiles. Nice. And back in our kernel configuration, let's recompile the kernel with some more features. We'll leave networking support for now because that's going to be pretty big. Okay, so I've recompiled everything.
Theoretically,
with a few
I don't
extra
know.
options, but there's one more thing I want to do, and that is put a fetch application, actually a shell script here, onto the floppy disk. So before I compress the file system, I'm just going to download fet.sh, which is an entirely shell script based super minimalist fetch. Ideally on the system it will look something like this, although who knows with our super stripped down kernel,
Yeah, we'll see.
what information is actually available. So fet.sh, the file, come on GitHub, view this as raw. We'll just wget that onto the floppy's file system.
I guess that's a way to do it. Sure.
Let's just chmod plus x, the script, and why not just make it executable for everyone? Not like anyone's going to be logging into our floppy disk remotely.
You don't even have SSH. So
All right, and here we are in version 2 of our floppy disk Linux install.
he should, if possible, add networking support, install OpenSSH if you can do it, and then SSH into the machine.
Let's see what we have here. Oh yeah, there's our fetch application. Let's see, did it mount the right stuff to home? It did not. Don't know why that doesn't work, but we are going to try to run our fetch to see some system stats, or nothing.
You have none of the tools it needs to run.
Okay, well, this is a full real Linux install, so we can edit our files right here with Vi.
I wonder
So
what it
let's
needs.
Edit fetch. Let's change it to not suppress error messages so we can see why it's not working. I hope. Oh. We
That'll
don't have
do it.
printf installed.
That will certainly do it.
Well, that would be helpful. All right, back in menu config here for BusyBox. And I think we can add printf here. There we go. Printf. And I have also enabled networking and recompiled the kernel off camera. And we are going to use ifconfig to hopefully configure the network. And to see if we're actually online, ping. All right, let's recompile this. All right, hopefully jump cut to we have a new install. All right, here we are in our
Years ago, there was a project called XWOF that was X Windows in a floppy, several versions including one with a primitive web browser. Oh, wow.
New install. Let's see if everything is in here. Yeah. Fetch.
Okay.
We have networking installed, I hope. And I also installed the ISA drivers in the kernel because this 3Com Etherlink 3 is an ISA card, and I've only installed the drivers for that specific card to try and save space. Socket address family not supported by protocol. What does that mean?
I've never seen that one before.
Can't ping anywhere, I guess, because whatever this means. Does this like need IPv6 or something? I installed the TCP IP stack, and we're pretty much out of space on this floppy. Oh yeah, DF is looking at the RAM drive. All right, let's see. If we do mount dev ft0 2/mount code page CP437 not found. Mount /t ms dos dev ft0 invalid argument. All right, well, we are missing something required for that. Well, at least we have fetch.
You do.
Maybe fetch will work. Fet.sh. Oh, it did something.
Oh!
Just nothing of consequence.
It's missing all the dependencies to print the rest of the shit.
All right, let's turn off suppress errors. Comment that out. And try it again. All right, obviously GTK settings aren't there, but I don't know what it means by bracket not found. By fetch. Okay, well, apparently I don't have the bracket version of test available. Perhaps
yeah, that makes sense.
I can just do that. Let's see if line 19 gives us an error again. It does not.
Ooh.
Right, line 26.
Is he gonna go in and manually fix all of it?
All right, let's get rid of this.
Oh my god.
I have no idea if that's gonna work. And hey, look at us. We are coding booted off of a floppy disk using software only installed on that floppy disk. Okay, I have systematically removed all of these square brackets and replaced it with the older test syntax. Let's put suppress errors back on. Let's see if we have a fetch app now. Let's see.
None of the environment variables are being set.
Fetch.sh, fet.sh. Boom. Oh, yeah, we do. Look at that.
Oh, shit. Okay.
CPU Intel 486DX2, memory 93 megs, kernel 6.14.11. Look at that. We did it. Okay, so I know that at a surface level, running modern Linux from a floppy disk on a 30-year-old 486 computer doesn't seem that useful. I mean, it's kind of impressive, sure, but there's hardly any room on this thing for anything else. But that's kind of missing the point. This is an exercise in seeing what minimal computing is really like. You can run modern Linux with a file system in less than 1.44 megabytes. And we also got a good look at what it's like to actually compile the Linux kernel. But I think we can shrink this down even more and fit a full working TCP IP stack on here,
again,
as well as a server
modern,
or two.
Modern is doing a lot of heavy lifting. A modern kernel.
I mean, how funny would it be to serve an entire website from a single floppy disk?
It would be pretty funny.
But that'll have to wait till next time. And as always, thank you very much for watching. And I just want to give a very special thank you to all of my
That was, you know what? I love that. That was actually pretty cool. That was pretty fun. What a fucking dumb machine. No, that was super cool. I enjoyed that. We don't watch a ton of Linux videos on the React channel, so it's nice to do one every so often.